No, 97.
Oh, 97.
Anyways, I've always known 97.
Okay, yeah. Let's just say 25 downwards. And as Egbons, we can see how these Gen Z guys think differently.
Yes.
And we saw it during the protests. And I want to know, that's why you guys said like this, because you guys are... I want to know, did you participate in the protests? Maybe at home, on the streets or whatever, and how did you feel about the country at that moment?
You want to go first?
No, Everest, I want to go first.
Oh, okay. The day I was supposed to go to the toll gate was when they had the shootout.
Oh,
yeah, so
same.
I was walking all through, so at the office, but then at the one particular day, it had gotten so serious, so my boss was like, you guys don't come in. So I called my guy, like, we're not going to work, guys, let's head out. So something happened, I don't know, I think I was writing a poem for the studio, so I didn't go. And then that night, so like, guy, check IG Live, I was like, yo, I did, and I was just saying, let me not go back there, it was so traumatizing. I had to leave social media devices for a week because it was mentally just traumatic. And we're so excited. Gen Zs are very disruptive, and it's an exciting thing to see. They have a different approach to everything. And the millennials, they still cannot comprehend. Somehow. So I know they had a Take Nigeria protest in the 80s. Yeah, in the 80s. So they had this protest, and the government shut it down. So they just got the heads of the protest, bribed them, then they shut it down. So they were also looking for that same model, so applied, but it didn't work because it seemed like, although it's debatable, I believe that the NSAS movement had heads, but they were not official heads, right? So it was very organic. So they couldn't shut it down. They tried. If you try closed bank accounts, they had cryptocurrency. So these guys were not ready for that battle, and this was going to. So what did they do? Normal force power.
Yeah.
Right. So it's beautiful to see how it could have gone. Although, discussing with some friends, I told them it could have started on the streets and ended in the House of Reps. Yeah, so that is where it would have gone, right? I am here for the change, and I know it's happening already because the NSAS movement are waking a lot of us to polity and our role. And that's why everybody's shaking now, because we're all getting up to say, you know what, we're going to stand for this person. We don't care anymore. We had Bibi Niger for a while. We're done with that. This is what we want to do.
I was going to coach and just say something that I might be wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. I feel like NSAS wouldn't have happened if we didn't have George Floyd and BLM in the first place.
Yes,
okay.
I agree.
Yeah, and it's just funny how like the importance of fighting and how it can be ripple effects and the impact it can have on generations even after you. Like who would have thought that BLM? I mean, because I remember I was watching the trend go, and I saw how everybody around the world was marching for George Floyd. And you're like, you know what, we have issues ourselves. Let's actually go out and speak on these issues as well. And I can see how, and even before, which one came first? Sex for Grades or NSAS?
Sex for Grades.
Sex for Grades. The documentary came before.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that kind of helped us to see ourselves better, because we didn't have the balls to have cameras in our bodies and go to meet those lecturers and have people see what they look like. You couldn't even speak. And I was talking to I think it was you I was talking to about how, like, in our generation, when you had issues, you put in a diary and you shut it down. Gen Zs will go on Twitter and write stuff, and then other kids who can relate to it are like, I feel that, and then they can all discuss and like unpack stuff and heal each other through that process. So like the internet, I feel like we really used the internet for, I mean, there are things you can do with the internet. But that one,
they shut it down.
Yeah. And what?
Wasn't that why they shut it down?
And that's why they shut
it down. And they tried to actually, I remember Focus, directed by Tola Ajayi, myself, and Genevieve. It was something about how like the government tries to, and it's not just a Nigerian thing.
No.
In Asia, in parts of Europe, the government
Russia.
No, not even Russia. This
Iran,
North Korea.
No, is it Iran that killed that
Iran.
They have to shut their internet.
Yes.
That was the first. That's usually the first thing. North Korea too. That's how dictators.
I think the issue is I don't know. There's this cartoon. I think it's Ant or something, and they're going like the power lies with the people, but they don't usually know unless they're like together. Now, every generation has its own personality, something called the spirit of the times. You know, how people in each generation are different.
Zeitgeist.
Exactly. And we may not understand it, but the information that we now have access to all over the world opens our minds in such a way that we have answers to things, answers that might have been kept away from older generations because they didn't have the exposure that we now do.
Yeah.
So when we see that they're doing something abroad, and like, we can't do that in Nigeria.
Yeah.
We can actually do it because we've seen.
Yeah.
That's why it's so powerful being able to see those things. That's why they can shut it down so that we don't get more ideas from other people. Doing that SARS thing, it was very traumatizing for me. I didn't go out, but I was like doing a lot of online activism and everything. And then the shooting happens, and it's like, oh my gosh, there are actually real life consequences. At first it's exciting, but then the country just shook me back to this reality that they can harm you in this way. Like, these are people that are actually evil on a fundamental level. After that thing happened, I shut down. I had to see a therapist because I couldn't. I don't speak about politics on Twitter anymore. If you want to vote for someone that might kill you, great. Because if by now you haven't seen, if by now you can't make an educated decision, I'm not the one that's going to change your mind. So whatever I want to go through, great. I'm going to survive through everything. There are options at the end of the day. But like, I don't know what else you need to see, like, to convince you to do this. So like, that thing just, I don't know, it just made me give up a little more on the country. Like, and if at the end of the day we did something this powerful, and this happened.
I think I was lucky because I was filming Rihanna then, and if you're familiar with Rihanna is all about a mad oppressive king who squashes rebellions. So the story starts with a rebellion being squashed, and so we were filming, and that day, and they had to shut us in because it was too far away for people to go from Lakwe to start going towards the action. So we're there for some days, and said it helped me channel my anger into the work because in the my character was one of the proponents of the rebellion and fighting the prophecy and all of that. And so I was lucky that I was able to sublimate all that anger into the work. And when it got to the fight scenes where I was meant to like physically maim someone, it was so bad. I almost went off script, off choreography, and almost really harmed him. Do you understand? So like it was, for me, it was a lot of, man, I'm angry, I need to channel this, and I need to do it as safely as possible. And it's beautiful how art can be a release and be a tool for release to someone who's watching, and even for me performing. And also beautiful. I'm happy you got therapy, and I feel like every Nigerian should have a therapist on standby.
Everyone. Unfortunately, not everyone can afford therapy.
It's expensive. Michelle,
Mentally aware did it for
free during the years.
Oh, cool.
I was going to hit on what she said. You know, I was Team No Japa until that. Yeah, I was Team No Japa. But then after that happened, like she said, it was a shock. It was a shock. Like the government can actually say, "Oh, you guys have had your fun, right? Where the big boys are stepping in now. Nobody's saying nothing." And you know, our boss came and gave a speech that, you know, totally there was nothing about the whole thing. So it was really, really scary. So when my friends were like, "Boy, I'm leaving," I was like, "Well, good luck." Yeah, good luck. And then it just takes me back to the 80s. You know, there was the Jackpot in the 80s, Andrew.
Andrew.
Andrew. I'm checking out. And the head of state, then state now.
So full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah, full circle. That's a short film.
Yeah, because if people read more, they would know everything that is happening now. My father was telling me before, Gbemi, this happened, and now he's here, and this happened again.
Yeah. And that was why they actually jackpot that first time, and then it's still happening now. So it goes on.
Where's the hope?
I mean, at that point,
it's
like,
not for nothing that history was cancelled.
Yeah, from
from
the
curriculum, because you know your history. It does something to you. We're a result of the things we hear, the things we see, the things we read. So history basically is that subject that equips you in a way that you continually use, even when you don't know you have it. So we've heard recently when people want to, inspire women, they'll say be like be like the Moremis, be like the Fumula Rasum Kuti. But the Efunshetons, but how many people, how many, even the millennials, not just the Gen Zs, how many of them know these people? So you shut down history, you shut down the power, you shrink the civic space. And once people are unable to speak, once people are unable to come together, you've taken the power.
Yes.
I remember during NSAS, we were even supposed to travel for a performance, but we couldn't go, so we were here, we did it. And interestingly, we didn't go we were not there during, I think it was 2 days before the shootout. We were just there, just chilling, taking pictures, and it wasn't real. It didn't feel like we were Lausa here, the governor's office too. When the shooting started, it felt totally different. And I think a day or two before the shooting, I was just thinking about the entire situation, and I was really boiling. I was angry because my father was a police officer. And I remember growing up, my mother, my siblings, no, excluding my mother, my siblings, the grown ones, the first, second, and third born, there was a situation in my family where they were really on my father. They almost left the house. They wanted to, they felt like killing him. Why? My father found a box of foreign currency many, many years ago, yellow and black taxi, and he returned it. And my older siblings felt like I was really small, but I knew what was going on. And I grew up in this family where we talk about it every time. And then now, many years later, police officers are killing people. My father died with nothing as a police officer, after retirement. So I was just thinking and thinking and thinking. And I felt like seeing my father now, or that police officer who's shot that boy, let me ask him certain questions. So we made a film with William Benson and Simi Lulu Azan. And it was really brutal. It was really, they broke down here. And that was our own way as artists, as creatives, to do something, to let out these emotions, because there is no, especially as the artist, you are your own therapist. There's none, because the doctors don't. When we're making Sniper, we learned that the doctors who work at the psychiatry hospital in Lagos, they had to marry on time, and they had to choose wisely to marry certain type of women who would be there when they're totally down. It's a different experience entirely. So that mental thing, you have to be your own therapist.
It's actually now we're actually coming into this conversation of mental health, especially in different professions. So one time I read an article that says, if you want to have a happy spouse, like there are some professions you have to avoid. Yeah. No, really, they no joke.
Acting.
They said, they said, don't try not to marry nurses, especially or pediatricians, doctors that kids don't do that.
I wouldn't date an actor.
And I spoke to a friend. She's in pediatric medicine, and she said it. She said having to see a baby with cancer or a baby with a lump, that's not something you want to go back home and you're happy about.
So how was your day, honey? Some kid had cancer.
So now we're now looking. Okay, now the conversation is starting because Gen Zs, these guys are very, very okay. Let's go back. How did these other folks, our fathers, how did they process theirs?
Because they're dealing with a lot of trauma as well that they're unaware of.
You see, so it's like generations of trauma that they're now channeling into, and these guys are taking it to work, right? And then they're putting it in jobs. So the police officer, we saw collision because he took what happened at home, brought it on the job, and you're seeing unprocessed pain and it's just pouring into the society, and now it's not just the government, right? Because at the end of the day, let's be honest, the government has their issues and everything, but it's actually people that build the country, not the government.
Let me hold you there. Let's go on a little break, get lubricated, get water in.
Complete your sentence.
Yeah, and change the batteries, I believe. That's actually the real reason why.
I think you read my mind. I was just thinking about breaks.